Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan. I'm joined today by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Brett,
Hello.
Wyatt,
Hello.
and the Alex twins.
Hello.
I can't even tell which is
we were
which.
both gonna say hello, but then there was
Alex was chomping on a carrot. So, we're really bringing a good energy today.
The carrot takes precedent over everything else, clearly.
This is the post-Game Awards podcast. You can catch our live reaction up. For most of us, we've got Brett here now to also give some takes. We've had a couple days. We're recording this on the Sunday after the Game Awards. We've had some time to settle in and think about our takes and actually give some insightful commentary, hopefully. No promises, but let's hop to it. First of all, I think I want to start out by saying those of us who are watching it in our reaction, I think you can tell that we were pretty into it for most of the Game Awards. We were like in with what was going on. And I want to preempt why I'm starting with this, because the reaction to this Game Awards has been very different than I think we were expecting from the get-go afterwards.
For sure.
It's
yeah.
but
definitely
also
like
time
not
to
in a way that we
digest.
really disagree with, right?
I think
it was-
everyone in the stream had a collective post-stream clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were having a lot of
Way to
fun
put it.
watching it, which I think made for a good stream, but it also meant we were talking over a lot of stuff and didn't realize how much time was being spent on the non-award things compared to the awards.
I also
we
just
did- I
there
do
was
know
a
we-
number of things I just totally missed because I
Absolutely.
was just goofing around.
Absolutely, and that's the intent with those streams, but it did mean that, like, I think for us it didn't seem as egregious at the time when it was
Yeah, because
us
we were
like
joking with
chatting
each
about
other.
the cool reveals
Yeah.
and stuff. And then I do know we commentated a bunch of times on like they're really just running through 4 things at once.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've all got our opinions have evolved a little bit, and we're gonna get into it as we're going through it. I'll be pulling up footage from the Game Awards and going through the actual awards. So let's get started with the actual awards part of the show. First one I want to start with, we're skipping the esports awards because none of us know anything about current esports. I do want to give out a shout out to the content creator awards, especially for, I don't know 3 of these people, but I do know Iron Mouse and People Make Games, who are excellent creators. Iron Mouse winning, very nice. People Make Games is the group that has done a bunch of really good sort of informative videos about things like Roblox and the predatory monetization that they have on children. So fun content creators. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out before we move on to our next category, which most anticipated. This is the start, I believe, of the actual rush of awards, which we have the actual stream up here. So, I forgot they completely did this out of order. The website's not in the same order as the actual show. How perfect.
Well, you gotta
we're
have
gonna go in
people
the
vote on
website
best
order.
game of the year first, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna go in website order and not actual order that the show went in, because this is the order that seems better. Most anticipated, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I don't think any of us have problems with this, though I do think for most of us this is probably Hades 2.
It is for me, but I also, like you said, I'm not upset that it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That tracks entirely.
Yeah.
I was
it makes
kind of
sense.
surprised, honestly, just because in my circle I think it's Hades 2 by a long shot.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's probably... I wonder how much of this is age metrics of the people on that panel being the group of people that would have nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII. Not to say that's a bad thing, but if
I love
that
It's
panel is
skewing
mostly
the
made of people
vote.
with nostalgia, they might skew the vote towards Final Fantasy VII
Well,
Rebirth.
Also, I think it's also telling of like it's probably some of the like hype that everyone still had for Fantasy VII Remake, because that was such a
Yes.
long in development thing that I feel like a lot of that's kind of bleeding over into Rebirth as well. Because
Yeah, it's still kind of hard to
part
believe it's
2 of
real.
the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
It's also,
absolutely
like-
Star Wars Outlaw and Tekken 8 had no chance regardless. Like a Dragon.
Well, I was
still
gonna say, like, you
relatively
put-
niche. Like
You put both of those against the rest of the items there, and it's like you guys couldn't have thought of anything better.
yeah, I mean this was
like,
the
not
Hades 2
saying
and
that these
7
games-
Rebirth category. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Like, not saying the other 3 games will be bad or don't deserve hype, but like I don't know. Like, compared to Final Fantasy VII and Hades 2, like those are games that are sequels to games that were like widely discussed when they came out, and everything else is like, oh, some people like Yakuza, some people like Star Wars still for some reason, and some people
I
like
mean,
fighting games. So
Hades was Game of the Year when it came out,
yeah,
right? So it it tracks. It's like, yeah, what it's not really much of a comparison, but
Yeah.
mhm.
All right. Moving on from most anticipated, because those games haven't come out yet. And we don't
Yep.
have anything else to say about them. Best adaptation, I think this was also one that
No contest.
yeah.
yeah.
If it was gonna be either Super Mario movie or Last of Us, and I think Last of Us is the better pick for sure from those two.
So I've seen
Does
seen
anybody-
3 of the things on here, right? I've seen The Last of Us, I saw the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I started Castlevania Nocturne. And I have not finished it.
I
Kind
really
of by
liked
choice.
the old Castlevania show. I haven't watched Nocturne yet, but
Yeah.
either way, I mean, like Twisted Metal and Gran Turismo fill in space on this list. No offense to
Yeah.
them, but
I mean,
honestly,
I heard the Twisted Metal show wasn't that bad. I heard it was actually kind of okay. I
Well,
don't
it
know.
won't be the last time that Steve Mackey takes up space. Don't worry.
Anthony Mackie. Yeah.
And
Oh, yes, sorry, that's the basis for
Wonder where
Pulp. Oh my
Steve came
god.
out of.
Yeah,
no, that's the basis for a
our-
band I like. Is the same last name. And I
is
confused
that
me.
one of the things we're going to be talking about with the celebrity president?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to
Oh,
the
we will.
celebrity stuff.
We
We're gonna
will.
save all
We'll
that
get there.
because hey, we're gonna focus on the games and the awards
Yeah.
first, and then get through that, and then
yes.
we'll talk about the
We're
new
gonna
stuff
focus-
and the other stuff.
We're gonna focus on the Game Awards section of the Game Awards.
Because
The smallest part of it.
the fact that we're going to be talking about this for longer than the award speakers had cumulatively, just on the going through the awards themselves, is probably going to be indicative of the problem this year. Yeah, good adaptation. Glad it won. Moving on to best multiplayer. This was another stacked grouping, to be honest. I think all of these are really good picks. Baldur's Gate 3 is just exceptional in every regard, and I think this is one of the weird games where, like, we complain a lot about games getting nominated and winning multiple categories, and I think that's a very good complaint to have. But I also think in this case, like, it's Baldur's Gate 3 would have had to not be nominated here to not win.
It changes when it's a fantastic game that we all agree should have won.
Well, it's interesting because I've seen some criticism either online or from people that I know that they're like, well, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, incredible game, really fun co-op. Does it really like get to be in the best multiplayer category?
I think that I would not have picked it for this category simply because like it is a fantastic game that has multiplayer, but it's not like the emphasis really on the multiplayer.
I'd say definitely more like there's things like that, and also I feel
it deserves it. But
is it just me that feels like Street Fighter 6 is a weird pick for multiplayer?
No,
I
think there's a couple weird picks
as opposed
here.
to more like party game esque.
I think Street Fighter 6 is weird because Street Fighter 6, like, multiplayer is such a. This is again back. We get to category problems, right? Of multiplayer is such a big category that it's really hard to call, like, what are we talking about here? Like, what's
what does
the
that
actual
even
thing?
mean?
So what I would jump to is best, like, multiplayer interactions, right? And best things you can do with your friends, which to me eliminates Street Fighter 6 and Wonder, just because they're not super interactive in that form. As much as I love Diablo 4, I work on Diablo 4, I think it's very fair that it goes to one of the other games here just because of their social elements. Like, Party Animals was a fantastic time. I think Party Animals has really good social stuff. So I wouldn't have had a problem with Party Animals winning. But Party Animals is also a super low budget game that breaks constantly. So I think
I
Baldur's Gate 3
thought
is
this
like
was
the
between Baldur's Gate and
simplest.
Diablo 4 for sure.
Yeah, it's just a hard category, and absolutely no problem with Baldur's Gate 3 winning. So, okay, moving on to the classical worst category in the show.
And it was
For
amazing.
us who know nothing about it.
I didn't even realize some of these games came out this year.
Well, like, okay,
Well, the two sports games
Forza-
always come out.
those always come out, but I looked into it a little bit because I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that big Forza project that's like supposed to be what the franchise is for the next little bit because they're just going to be updating it forever. That never goes wrong. That did come out this year, And it's
Oh.
sitting at mostly negative on Steam right now, and I don't think anybody
Oh.
likes it. Reviews
Huh.
haven't been
Motorsport,
very
or-
good, so I don't.
Mm.
Maybe the other games were just
They have
really
been,
underwhelming.
They've been
I
better
don't
on
know.
Xbox than they have on Steam, and I think a lot of that's down to Forza has always had weird PC issues. Because I play all the Forza games on PC, and they consistently have problems that are like, oh, I'll launch the game and it will sit on the loading screen for like 5 minutes before indicating that it's okay, and you just don't know if there's a problem or not. Like weird stuff like that continually happens. Which, yeah, maybe that should be docked against Forza for winning best sports racing, but at the same
so
time,
weird.
its competition is EA Sports, which never wins this category. None of us
Fair.
play sports games, so I don't even feel comfortable
No.
talking about it because I just don't play it.
I will
F1
say this.
Also want to point out one sports game. The rest are all racing. Like, I guess you can include racing as a sport, but this is just such a weird, wacky category in general.
I also
I've
will
played-
point out it has not great reviews on Steam, but if you look at reviews on other platforms and if you go to like aggregate sites and stuff like that, it's scoring much, much better.
Yeah, Steam reviews tend to be a lot. They're skewed in certain directions of like if a thing catches up somewhere, and it, like what super commonly happens, Chinese reviews will get, or Chinese games will get review bombed for like a bad translation or something, and like weird stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay. There's a reason that I think user voting has its own set of issues.
I mean, perfect recent example. The finals came out and literally nothing about the movement was changed, but it was getting a bunch of negative reviews on Steam because people had apparently thought that the movement had been slowed
Exactly,
down.
like
which
weird
that wasn't
stuff
even
like
the
that.
case.
It's like mob
And the developer was like,
mentality stuff.
increase your FOV. I don't know what to tell you.
I've
Yeah.
played a number of the F1 games here and there. I'm not a huge player. I haven't played F1 23, but like they're exactly what you expect they are, so I don't usually see it winning. Yeah, I think they're good, but they're like they are what they are.
Yeah, for sure. Codemasters is a really experienced team, but I think the F1 games have a much narrower audience than the rest of these. Hot Wheels Unleashed legitimately probably would have been my pick. I think Hot Wheels Unleashed is exceptionally good. And the second one, which I haven't played, but if it's as good as the first one and just adds on more, which I've heard it is, I think it's probably a pretty clear-cut winner of this category for me. I don't know, 'cause I'm not a huge motorsport person, and if I am, I play Gran Turismo and not Forza for the motorsport part. Crew Motorfest is a crew game, and the crew games are always a little bit hit and miss. I think Motorfest is probably more hit than miss, because I've got to try it now since I picked up Ubisoft Plus to try Avatar. I also tried Crew Motorfest. Pretty fun. It's a good time. It's better than Crew 2, I think, but not, it's still not really competing with Forza, or even Hot Wheels. It's still just such a weird category. Okay, best sim strategy. This is the other weird category pairing that happens every year. Just because a lot of these games are very different. It's odd to have a bunch of like combat focused games and then Pikmin 4 and City Skylines.
Yeah.
It also makes me wonder, I feel like this category, if you literally change nothing other than just the title and just call it best strategy category, I think that would probably improve things, to be perfectly honest, because trying to make it more inclusive just from the title alone, I feel like muddies the water so much.
It just becomes confusing, especially when you have like, I think City Skylines, I think if you changed it to strategy and had the same games here, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
And it would exclude things like Microsoft Flight Sim from being in the category, which is just such a weird throw in.
That shouldn't even be in
right?
the same group anyway.
Exactly.
How do you compare that to a city builder or Advance Wars? Like, what's your...
Also, I find it hard to believe that you can't find enough strategy and sim games that come out in 1 year to make two separate categories. I don't know. I feel like you can make two.
That reminds me, God, I wish we had enough puzzle games coming out each year for a puzzle game category.
I think they occasionally have a puzzle game category, but it depends on what comes out that year.
Well, that's the other thing, is I feel like a ton of really good indie puzzle games come out every year, but because they're so low profile, they're not going to show up in the Game Awards, which is its own discussion and issue. But there's so many categories that
we have two indie categories. We absolutely should have. I think more categories that aren't like specifically indie, but lean into indie options.
Definitely.
I think that's definitely something we didn't get a lot of representation
also,
in.
like,
so many great indie games this year. So many.
Where's
yeah.
the indie horror category? Like,
Where's
there's
indie
waves.
horror?
There's a million of those
Also,
every
honestly-
year.
Okay, I do have a real problem with this category, and it's that Shadow Gambit is not on this. So Shadow Gambit, I'm gonna go on a tangent here for a second, is Mimi
Do it.
Studios' game. Mimi also made Shadow Tactics, Desperados, a couple of other excellent stealth games. They're closing down because stealth games don't sell a ton of money. They're real-time stealth. They're not like closing because of any bad blood. They're just like, hey, these games aren't making us enough to continue operating forever, so we're gonna go out on a high note and not have like a disaster happen, which, you know, smart call. But Shadow Gambit came out this year. It's excellent. It's the pirate strategy RTS thing with like there's a character that has like a gigantic anchor. There's someone that has like a sword in their chest that she pulls out to teleport. Super cool game. Why is it not in this category? It really should be in the strategy category.
It's a strategy game.
Because I think that probably is unilaterally. I mean, Pikmin 4 is really good too. But of the other games here, like, if you wanted a real competition, replace City Skylines 2 with Shadow Gambit, because City Skylines 2 is broken. It's a broken game at release.
Well, it's another example of I feel like the Game Awards and Jeff Keighley talking the good talk of like, oh, look at all these indie games that we introduced to the world, but when it comes to the actual awards, they're
not even
don't
there.
even bother.
Yes. And I think a lot of this just comes down to the way that the show is run and like the big juror panels they have that are made up of like tons of game critics. And the problem with it being tons of game critics is that even the best game critic doesn't play every game. You have different people for different games, and the prevailing opinions are going to be the things that get to the top, which is the game that the most people have played, right? It's going to be the AAA stuff that most people have played, and not the little indie that like one person from one critic outlet is championing. Which is like, it kind of sucks. It's a weird thing here. I'm not going to hold a grudge over it because I understand that like producing a show
There's
like
no
this is very
easy
hard.
solution. There's no easy solution. to
Yeah,
something.
like I think the BAFTAs are a better place for that, right? Like it's better to have those awards be in a very specific setting for the hyper-focused stuff, but it is just weird. It's odd that we have this issue every year with the Game Awards, and they always pretend like we're this great champion of indies, but they're really not. It is not how that
So I
happens.
mean, it's worth pointing out too. I mean, especially this year, they were like, oh yeah, we like introduced No Man's Sky to everyone, and it was this big deal. If you really look at the development of No Man's Sky, that probably did more to harm its production
Exactly.
Oh, with the hype train.
than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, because they picked the Sony picked them up, and like a ton of crazy stuff happened. And yes, they're in a good spot now. We like Hello Games here, but
there was a really long time when, like, whenever you talked about Hello Games and No Man's Sky, the reaction was just vile.
absolutely.
From people.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we didn't even talk about Pikmin 4 winning. Pikmin 4, great game. I'm sure.
Look at that dog! Look at that cute little guy. He's
Look at
adorable.
dog. Company of Heroes is a bit of a mess at launch, I heard. Fire Emblem Engage is really good, but has a terrible story. And it's just the worst writing I think I've seen in a long time in a Fire Emblem game.
It's really funny.
It's funny bad. It is, so it's fun to play because it's funny bad, but it is like, it's basically Disgaea tier, right? Except without Disgaea's humor.
Disgaea does it on purpose.
Yikes.
But
This guy is self-aware. Fire Emblem Engage is not. City Skyline 2 was a trash fire on launch. It's getting better, but it's not there yet. So it being here is a little weird. Advance Wars 1+2, great game, but it's a remake.
Listen. Advance Wars 2 is a perfect video game. Okay, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
It is a remake and not like an
RE4 remake. It is essentially a remaster.
It is an actual just like remaster, and it's a great remaster, and they did a great job. Does it deserve to be?
I think it deserves to be here. I don't think it deserves to win, which is what happened.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
I think it fell off the radar really quickly for me.
it did.
Yeah, because it had that really long launch period of like, it was supposed to launch and then Russia invaded Ukraine, and so they didn't launch it. And then it came out like a year and a half later with no fanfare, which I understand from Nintendo's perspective. I get it, but definitely made for a tepid reception at launch, I think.
I think it's definitely served its purpose though of giving Advance Wars fans literally anything. Just Give us
Yeah,
something.
and I mean the map creation tool and all that other stuff. The multiplayer is super cool.
Better off than F-Zero.
And
Yeah.
the redone 3D graphics and everything, and the new like animation and stuff. Great.
We'll say F-Zero 99 is pretty good. Best family. This is another category that's just generally a bunch of Nintendo games.
always
A
wins it.
Nintendo category.
We did get Disney and Sonic in here this year, although of course Super Mario Bros. Wonder is going to win, and I don't think anyone
I will
has a
say
problem with that.
there is less Nintendo in this category than there normally is. There's
Absolutely.
only
two. Yeah. I think Super Mario Bros. Wonder is excellent, so I'm glad it won something, because I don't think it had a chance at anything else. But despite being one of the highest scoring games this year, I think absolutely this is where it needed to go and not anywhere else. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about most of these games. Sonic going up against Nintendo again. Sonic chose to go directly against Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I don't think that was a good idea. So,
No.
How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Best
right.
fighting game.
let me take it away
Something
again.
we have some input on.
Best fighting game, there was only one option for this. Mortal Kombat 1 deserves to get nominated, but not win, because it's a mess. It was a
Never
mess
heard
at
of
launch.
God of
It's a little
Rock.
better. God of Rock's
From like a
pretty
technical
cool.
perspective?
I don't know. Did you see the Nintendo Switch port videos? They were
Oh well, the
comical.
Switch port. Yeah.
Oh, it's bad.
It's also
It's
like
really
it has
bad,
PC
yeah.
issues too. It's like locked to 30 FPS in weird places and not 60.
Huh.
It's so wild
And
to me,
multiplayer
too,
for it is
because
weird too.
I played Mortal Kombat 11 on multiple consoles, including Switch, and I was impressed at how well it ran on Switch.
Yeah.
So, like, clearly they know how to optimize a game for Switch.
I also know that the last couple Mortal Kombat games have had some pretty aggressive microtransaction.
Oh,
Yes,
this
this one
one,
is
Mortal Kombat
absolutely
1,
no exception.
beyond anything previous.
Pretty bad.
Jesus.
Pocket Bravery is super cool. It's a fun indie fighting game, but it's certainly not going to punch up to the likes of Street Fighter 6. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. It's a good time if you like Nickelodeon games, but it's, compare it to the competitive fighting games on this roster and you're going to have a rough time coming up with reasons that it should win over some of them. And Street Fighter 6 is just a universal success. I think Street Fighter 6 is the fighting game that has come out recently that has the least bad things about it, and that means it wins. If it was going up against Guilty Gear Strive, it might be a tighter fight, but Street Fighter 6 is exceptional. It has a great single-player component, too, which is always a thing that fighting games tend to fall apart at. So,
How long ago did Strive come out? Was that last year?
last year, yeah. Strive was up. I think Strive won last year.
I think it did win.
There you go.
So Strive got what it deserves, absolutely. But I would be curious to see how it fares against Street Fighter 6, because I think they're both exceptionally good. All right, moving on. Best RPG.
Yeah.
I mean,
This was
One of
nominees.
these games, or like, a few of these games are an RPG.
Yeah,
Several of them are not.
We know
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 won. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. I think maybe Baldur's Gate and Sea of Stars should definitely be here. Starfield probably should be, because it's enough of an RPG that I think it counts. Final
Barely.
Fantasy 16 is weird because it is an RPG, but it's more of an action game, and I would prefer it in the action category.
Yeah.
I think
here.
we were talking about this yesterday. The RPG parts of Final Fantasy 16, and this is coming from someone who's really enjoying the game, they become a little superfluous after.
They're there for flavor, right? They're there so you get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
aftertaste of RPG in your action game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lies of P is the same. Like it's straight up a Souls-like. So
I would have loved for Lies of P to win something because it's currently my obsession game, and like I've said before and will constantly say again, it's the thing that got me to enjoy Souls-likes.
Mhm.
yeah.
He's admitting it now.
Yeah.
At this rate, we just need a Souls
I know.
category because enough of them come out every year.
Yeah, it almost
yeah.
feels like they're putting a couple of these
Well, that-
games in here because they don't fit.
Well, that's what we have
Yeah.
Iron Pineapple for in his YouTube channel.
Yeah, 'cause I think Lies of P should have gone in Best Action Adventure, but Best Action Adventure is an overloaded category that needs to be split into two already.
Mm.
So
But also, Lies of P, just fantastic game.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
It did win
will
a lot
not
of
be able
other
to stand up to
things.
Baldur's Gate 3, though.
yes.
And now, next, the category.
I do want to
That
quickly
keeps me
mention
up at
Baldur's
night.
Gate 3 absolutely deserved Best RPG. I
Oh,
think this is another one of those
100%.
cases where like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Best RPG in like a decade. So like,
yeah, This is the weird case with it being up for Game of the Year and winning it, in addition to winning all these others, is if you put it in a lineup with any other RPG this year, I don't think I can say any other RPG would have a case for being better.
Yeah, because I feel like recently, within the last like decade or something, we as gamers have lost like what an RPG actually is, because now so many games have RPG elements in them, and that just like they get defined.
Not
as
even that.
because,
a lot of games just have loot and like
or that even. But like Baldur's Gate
yeah.
has like role playing,
Yeah.
where you can
Literal
change,
role playing.
Yeah, you can change whole scenarios by doing like crazy stuff that the game assumes
Like
that you will.
this would be a fair fight if Mass Effect 2 was up here or something.
Like, yeah, I was literally thinking like
Witcher
the last
3.
real competition it might have is Witcher 3. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Cyberpunk.
Oh my god, that was back in
in
2015.
Yeah, it's hard to put anything up.
Okay,
there and say
this category keeps me up at night.
Why are they together?
It's so wacky.
I hate this category. I hate everything.
I particularly hate that Alan Wake 2 and Resident Evil 4 are here. Both phenomenal games. Shouldn't be an action adventure.
No, yeah.
At least not the way that they traditionally do this category.
But they're still horror games.
If this was a pure, like... It's weird, because I don't know what else I would put these in if it wasn't, like, a horror category. But it shouldn't be this. Like, Best Action Adventure... Absolutely, swap this out for Lies of P and swap Alan Wake 2 for something else that deserved to be here. Yeah.
But just in general, not even this year, but just in general, like the absolute just vague, what does that even mean, action adventure? It just creates so many problems. It creates what we have right now. And I can't even form coherent sentences. Like Final Fantasy 16 should be here.
Absolutely,
that is an action adventure
RPG
game.
For sure,
Are you kidding me?
I do think I think Lies of P. I feel like that should be in the same category.
Yeah, I think maybe take Lies of P for Resident Evil 4 and Alan Wake 2 should be Final Fantasy 16. And then
like
you have
if
a
anything,
category, but
the action adventure section should be the Souls-like section. If anything, like
by this point, that's where they fit in the best. Most of them, at least.
But I will say, Tears of the Kingdom absolutely deserved. Great game. Yep. I wouldn't have been mad with Jedi Survivor or Spider-Man 2 winning as well. I think this was a very good category. We had a lot of good games.
I kind of wish Spider-Man had won it, just so that Spider-Man could have won something. Because
but it's hard because Tears of the Kingdom is really good. So, and we knew it wasn't going to win anything else.
It's tough. It's really like for me, between those two games, it kind of depends on how much you value story.
I don't know. Tears of the
adventure game.
Tears of the Kingdom could have had a shot at best debut indie.
For sure.
Moving on.
Small company Nintendo. Best action
Let's go, baby! 100% win rate. Let's go! Fuck you, Spider-Man! You got nominated 7 times and won nothing. We only got nominated once and won. Let's go!
I do want to say, this category, I'm happy Armored Core won. I think Armored Core Hi-Fi Rush
also a
clusterfuck.
Happy Armored Core won. Sad Hi-Fi Rush had to lose at its
Why are the rest of the games in this category? I think Remnant 2 is fine. I'm not upset about Remnant 2 being here, but I am upset about Dead Island 2 and Ghost Runner.
Yeah. Where is the line too between action/adventure and action?
No, that's what I'm saying.
With traversal and puzzle solving.
Oh my god.
So I guess it needs traversal and puzzle solving. I think that is.
But there's no traversal in Armored Core. Definitely not. That would be silly.
Or Resident Evil. Like there legitimately isn't any in Resident Evil.
I think like I don't know if this is what they were thinking. I think what they're thinking is that action game is like just really like they said focuses primarily on combat, and then what I think they mean by action adventure is that it's a little bit more broad and maybe has more of a focus on other gameplay aspects, maybe more of a focus on story. Like they said,
I think that is the intent.
But again, that's still like so vague.
Just take the action out of adventure here. Just say best adventure, and then best action, right? Like, that's cleaner split.
I feel like just to spout barely formulated thoughts about something I just thought of, but like I feel like the Game Awards would be better off without sticking with the same like archetypal categories that they have every year, and just like reading the room and being like, oh, a lot of good survival horror games came out this year. Let's have a
Yeah.
spooky survival horror. Like they theme them every year. Like kind of have like a worldwide Spotify Wrapped. How like Spotify Wrapped like does things based off of the genres and stuff that you specifically listen to. Like just pick from the pool of stuff that's out this year because
Yeah.
it's
Or
not
even-
the same every year.
And I think
'Cause,
we
like,
could then, that opens up things like an honorable mentions category that's like, these
For
didn't
sure,
fit
for
anywhere
sure.
else. We want to give them just an honorable mention that's like, hey, you guys didn't fit anywhere else. Maybe we'll have one of you be like a winner of the secondary award here. But I think that would be a great category to add. But yeah, it's
I also
weird.
wonder if the solution is to do, you know how the Oscars has a lot of the technical awards where it's like, oh, best score, best cinematography, that kind of thing. I wonder if like
Yes.
Best file
that,
optimization.
I wonder if that helps here, where it's like, oh, what had the best turn-based combat system this year? What had the best melee
Yeah,
combat?
because I
system?
think
I
we'll talk about
actually-
that when we hit direction and stuff, because those categories tend to be a little bit less hard to like parse, right? Because they're
Yeah.
about
I would-
specific elements of game and not just the whole game.
I would really like a best score or soundtrack
Yeah.
as well, because sound design is a category, but that's very different from.
Well,
We have
Soundtrack, we do have
soundtracks
a
separately,
score.
I think.
Yeah,
we,
we have
we,
that.
we do have a best
We do
score.
have
Yeah, we
score
do.
and sound design.
Yeah, best score,
Mhm.
music, best audio design. Yeah,
Oh,
they're both
I
there.
totally
But like
missed
expand that
the best
more.
score and music.
Well,
But
I
like-
have good news for you on which one won.
But like expand that more, right? Like again, it's like have a category where it's like what had, like I said, what had the best melee combat system? What had the best like turn-based combat system?
Best shooter, like the classical best
shooter.
shooting.
Yeah.
I would love an award that's just like, hey, what game had the best bow this year? Wacky stuff like that.
What game
That
had the
has
best
fun with it?
implementation of fishing?
Yeah, best fishing minigame.
Hey, I would absolutely vote in that category. All right, best VR AR, good picks. I think obviously Village VR is the one that won this because it's phenomenal. Village VR has been getting nothing but praise since it came out. So yeah, I mean having the whole game there already and just converting it to VR, but doing it in a really good way.
Yeah.
I
I
think
forgot that
works well.
Humanity was a VR game.
It's
I
also
forgot that
flat
it
screen.
came out
though.
this year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Humanity launched onto the PS Plus extra thing. Synapse is
Huma-
great, but it's not going to beat a AAA.
I put
Village
Humanity
VR,
in the same folder in my brain that Foam occupies.
All right.
What?
Moving on from VR AR. Something we haven't done to say. Best mobile game. I bet everyone's
Oh
so
my
excited.
god.
I've only
Wow.
played Star Rail and Terra Nil from this, and actually both are pretty good. Star Rail is not my jam on computer, but it is a good phone game because it's simple enough to play on the go without it being a huge. Like I find Genshin very hard to play on my phone because it's too actiony, right? You got to be doing too much at once. But Star Rail turn-based, very easy to
controller.
play on your phone. Moving on, best debut indie. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is Cocoon?
Yeah.
All right, so there's been controversy with this and the other category. Debut indie's a weird one because debut indie implies that it's a new development studio, which all of these technically are. What they aren't
Technically.
is actual new studios, right? Like Cocoon is made
Yeah.
by the creators of Inside and Limbo. It's not.
Which like massive
not
indie
their
hits.
debut.
Everyone's heard of them.
It's a great game, but this is not a category that it should have been a regular best independent and not best debut. I don't know enough about most of these games to say that a lot of them are, whether or not like Dredge is purely indie. I'm inclined to think it is. And then Viewfinder is excellent. I'm surprised Viewfinder didn't win this category just based on how good its puzzle mechanics are. Venba from everything I've seen is great, and Pizza Tower is, I don't know, a massive meme that looks pretty fun to play. So
Wario.
If Celeste was
Yeah.
greasy,
great, perfect.
My God.
Yeah, this was a category with a lot of weird controversy because of that. I don't particularly care about like the controversy thing. I just think it's weird that Cocoon was here.
Yeah. And that's like because I was also confused. Like I'd never heard about it. Nobody had talked about this game before this. The only reason people even know what Cocoon is because it got nominated and won this category.
I would say there was
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
just
hype
never
around
heard of
this around Summer Game Fest, and I don't know if it was Game Awards last year, something last year where it got shown as well and looked really cool.
Yeah, I
it was
remember
pretty
being
weird.
shown.
a
also
single
do
thing
think-
about it.
I also do think it did get extra exposure because it was on Game Pass, or it still is on Game Pass, I think.
Yeah, well, because I went to go play it because I was like, what is so good about it? And it's just like it is a really good, it's a well-made puzzle game. Okay, that's why nobody was talking about it, because compared to Pizza Tower, it's pretty boring to think about. But it's well, I don't know if it's more mind-bending than something like Viewfinder, because you have to like literally bend the world around you with like photographs and stuff, and you do like go into little interdimensional orbs that go inside each other and stuff. But I don't know. It's a weird thing to win. It's not bad at all. It doesn't deserve people saying that it's shit or anything. But it's a very strange win.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Best independent game. Another category
for
with
both.
a lot of.
Yeah, I was about to say one controversy right into another here.
Wait, so there's 3 repeats in this.
Yeah, this is the
Yes.
other weird thing. I feel like these are the 2 categories in particular that you should not be eligible for both, right? You should absolutely only be in one of the 2.
There's 4 repeats here, actually.
Yeah, Dredge, not Sea of Stars. Dredge, Cocoon, and Viewfinder are the same. Sea of Stars and Dave the Diver were not the other
Sea
category.
of Stars was in another category, not the other indie category.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave the Diver's weird because Mint Rocket is the development studio, but it was also published by Nexon. So
Which they
does it
also
technically
didn't
fit the indie
mention.
category? I
Which
don't
they
think
also
anyone
don't
cares.
mention here, by the way, because
Yes.
don't they say developer and
They usually say like
publisher?
Annapurna Interactive here or something with all these are
Team
Thunderful.
17.
But yeah, the definition of indie has gotten super amorphous now. Most games end up with a publishing studio because we have a lot more independent publishers now than we used to.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's anymore like it's fair to say that like, hey, Viewfinder's published by Thunderful, so they can't be indie. I think at this point that distinction is meaningless now. So I think the whole discourse around Dave the Diver deserving to be here is just weird. It's an odd thing. Although Dave the Diver does have a huge team as well.
It also gets into the whole like you said, it's like what does indie even mean at this point? Does that dictate budget? Does that dictate lack of publisher?
I mean, if we're
team size,
or does that
going,
dictate just like a vague? This feels like an indie game.
and is that an
traditional
insult
definition
then?
here?
If you say this
We're
feels
going
like an indie game?
Well, no, I don't think it's an
definition,
insult for most
Baldur's
people.
Gate 3 should be here, which
Yes,
is
it
just
should.
unfair.
Well, and if we're
Just
talking
hilarious.
It's
about-
like
I mean,
none of us
if
are
we're
saying it
talking
should
about-
be here, right? But
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just it's another
It wa-
category that is
it's-
ill-defined.
It's an example. Yeah, it's an example of like what does this category even mean? Because if we're talking about games shouldn't have publishers, I mean, CD Projekt Red is technically speaking
It's
an
also
independent
weird
developer. Would
because-
you put them here?
right now they have the definition they use for indie is made outside the traditional publisher system. So already the category itself means half of these games are disqualified if we're going by like hard rules, which we're not, absolutely not. But yeah, Sea of Stars I've heard is excellent. I haven't played it yet. Very much want to, but
I think it's on our
It is.
It is,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
it is
on
on
our
Game
Game
Pass.
Pass thing.
Game Pass.
I have not finished it, but I've played a solid chunk, and it's pretty good. But I'm very surprised to see that it won and that other things weren't even nominated instead. Because it like if you like your good old indie RPGs, you get thousands of those a year, right? Like that's just like one of the most common genres that indie devs make, next to like platformers and now Vampire Survivor likes.
Yeah.
But like it did not feel like you'd expect something like an Undertale to be like the clear winner of like an indie game of the year or something, compared to something like these. And Sea of Stars, I don't know if people should go in expecting something like that, because it is just kind of like a solid normal RPG. There wasn't really anything too crazy about it just yet, unless suddenly in the last like third or something it goes crazy and I start thinking about my life.
over under
I don't
Chained
know.
Echoes, Brett. What's your take?
Chained Echoes has more interesting gameplay and better writing, so I would probably go for Chained Echoes over Sea of Stars from what I've played of both. Which
Nice.
I'm surprised that. But Chained Echoes did come out this year, right? Or was that last year?
I think it's last year. We played it this
Okay.
year. It came out last year.
Gotcha, yeah. But I don't know. It's just a weird pick. Again, not that the game is bad, but like compared to all the other things that I've played that were indie this year that came out, it's like, That's
Yeah.
weird to see that there.
We'll all have takes to add to yours when we get to our next Game Pass Claims Club.
Mhm.
All right, best community support.
Aha.
This is always a weird category too, just because it's about like responsiveness on social media. I think again, Baldur's Gate 3 winning we can't really argue with, but certainly I would have accepted anyone from this category except for Destiny 2 this year.
What's that? What's that doing here? What is that?
Which
doing
I mean,
here?
so
That's there for a
the
joke.
actual community managers.
They're excellent. Half of them are fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the higher ups that I mean you shouldn't be giving death threats to, but need to be held accountable.
Yeah, like it is unfortunate that it's in this category this year because it's drawing more attention to the bad year that Destiny has had.
Also, one of the worst expansions, but most well selling.
Yeah,
that it's had in the game's history, which is
And also a delayed
a thing.
expansion.
yeah,
Well,
super damaging
Wyatt-
to player counts.
Wyatt, to be fair, every one of their expansions has been delayed.
Yeah,
I think,
they
except
just
for
need to accept
one in the
timeline now.
past 6 years or so.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 had great community updates. I have nothing else
And
to say about this
continues to
category.
get them.
It continues to get them. I don't know about anyone else, but I have no strong opinions on the rest of this. So moving on.
Patch 5, baby, custom difficulty.
Okay. I want to get something. I want to get something off my chest. I want to get a complaint, not just about this year for this category, but previous years. I don't think Deep Rock Galactic has ever been nominated for this category, which is frankly insulting. You want to know why? In a paid game, they introduced seasonal battle pass content and nobody was angry about it because it was so well done. And they have such a good system and they keep having a really good system. And the fact that it's never been recognized for that is frankly
But Wyatt,
insulting. Anyway,
Wyatt, you don't understand because Apex and Final Fantasy 14 and Fortnite and Genshin Impact have to be here for the 4th year in a row. You don't understand. They have to all be here.
This is the
I'm
weird thing
just
with
saying.
this category, right?
I'm just
it's
saying.
always the same 4 games. And yes, Final Fantasy's had a good year, but like this year for Final Fantasy, we're in the off year. The new expansion hasn't launched yet. We're in the patches for the last expansion, but Final Fantasy won last year for last expansion, so it doesn't need to be here this year because it won. It got its award for the expansion that it's in. Let it rest for a year, so next year it can come back and win again. Fortnite, I think should be here. I'm actually kind of surprised it didn't win, based on what they've been doing. Even like I'm not a Fortnite player, but
Hold
I
on,
have to
hold
give
on.
them
You got to
props for what
remember
they've been
though
doing.
that the majority of what they just did that was huge happened the same day as the Game Awards.
Yeah, I guess that is the thing, right? I'm like, it was announced on the same day, so they couldn't judge it based on it.
I mean, the last thing that I heard about Fortnite was that they just ripped off the Among Us game mode. So,
well, now your new thing is they just ripped off Minecraft, and it's great.
And a racing game.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Apex feels like a
Peter
weird
Griffin.
inclusion, and Genshin.
And music.
Well,
and
that's
you
what
know
they have
what?
Harmonix working
Okay.
on now. Harmonix is working on the Fortnite music mode.
And you know what? Like, I know that we're talking about things that are always here. I don't think that No Man's Sky shouldn't be here. I think every single expansion, every single update
That they
No Man's
touted
Sky
in
has
the big thing.
is fantastic.
Yeah, I wonder if part
They
of the
did
reason
go
they
through a
weren't
big
here
show of
is
showing
that.
off all the expansions.
Yeah, I wonder if part of the reason they weren't here is just because Sean Murray was going to be talking here, so it would feel weird to have them like win an award and then go talk about a new thing. It would feel a little too
Yeah.
pre-planned. So yeah, I can see why they weren't here. Cyberpunk, sure, I don't have a problem with Cyberpunk winning for this.
I mean,
but
it
like
turned the game around, not just
Phantom
like,
Liberty is
the-
outstanding. But it's
But
also,
also-
like best ongoing is a weird category because we don't know if that means like best expansion or does it mean best live service, right?
which
What's
they
the
probably should just
direction?
have a best expansion like category.
Yeah,
that would
like-
make more
but
sense.
Be
Yeah.
specific
Whatever.
with that.
Yeah,
okay.
I
Most
kind of feel like
redeemed.
It
ongoing
technically
is-
it technically makes sense because they have been improving the game a lot even before Phantom Liberty, to be fair. But it's not the first thing that you think of when you think of, because that's really the live service game category, so it's really not what you think of.
Okay. Games for Impact. This is a lot of games I've unfortunately not played, even though all of them are on my wanting to play list.
You
I
did
have
play the
played
one
Chia.
that won, right?
I have played Chia. I've also played Terra Nil, and I own Space for the Unbound, but haven't started it yet. I've heard Chants of Sonar is incredible. I've heard Goodbye Volcano High. I've just heard nothing about Goodbye Volcano High, so I don't know if it's good or not. I didn't even know it came out. Then
I
also heard
did.
very
Don't
good
you
things
worry.
about. Yeah, Chia was good. I'm a little bit less into Chia than I think a lot of people are, but not for any like. I don't begrudge it winning this because I think it is very good and deserves it. It's just not my jam as much as it is for other people. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've heard Space for the Unbound is very, very good, so I'm looking forward to playing that. Any other thoughts on this category?
No.
Chia seems cool. I like New Caledonia. All right. Innovation and accessibility. So this is the first award they give out in the pre-show. I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was the first award, but it was one of the pre-show awards, and it was weird because they had one of the Forza Motorsport team members come up and talk about it, and it's just weird to do that during the pre-show. Like, that's a strange place to put the accessibility award.
Don't call it the pre-show.
Honestly, that was the thing. Is like the pre-show this year felt like
Yeah.
part of the regular show, so just don't call it a pre-show. It just be the
Yeah,
Game
it
Awards
just
starts at
happened-
4:30, right?
It just happened to be that in the actual show, people were still streaming to their seats, and Jeff Keighley wasn't the one saying these things.
Yeah, and it also
Yeah,
means
pretty
a ton of people like missed the pre-show because I like to go back and like check other content creators' reactions to some of this stuff and like get their takes on things. And a lot of people just didn't have anything for the pre-show because they didn't start recording because they didn't know it was part of the show, right? they weren't sure how important it was. And yeah, it was really important. I think Forza Motorsport winning, totally good. Motorsport and the Xbox teams always do a great job with accessibility stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't really know what most of these games, aside from Spider-Man 2, and of course I know Diablo's accessibility options, but Spider-Man 2 had phenomenal ones as well. So
One
I wouldn't
thing
have
that
been
I'm
upset with any of these.
that I am planning on getting Spider-Man 2 at some point. One thing that I'm really looking forward to messing with the accessibility settings is the web slinging assist for that.
Yeah,
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
That's going to be fun to play around with.
absolutely. It's yeah.
All right.
That one's hardly even an accessibility setting. That's just kind of preference.
Yeah. Best performance. This was a
yes.
stacked category.
Yeah.
I think this year is definitely nobody that is up here didn't deserve to be here.
You could have even had multiple people from Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
You could have had multiple people from Final Fantasy 16, multiple people from Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, I think. Like, all of these were excellent. I think they chose the right people, and I think the award went to the right person. Neil Newbun did a fantastic job in Baldur's Gate 3 as a stand.
And I
That's
know
really, really
for me, I was rooting for Yuri Lowenthal, who I know, especially compared to the other people on this list, has a lot of exposure, more so than a lot of the other nominees. But he just did such a good job. Like,
Well, that's the thing with this
it
category
was
this year is like
ridiculous.
you can't be upset about it not winning because everyone did such a good job, right? Of like,
Yeah, I'm not
normally-
upset. I'm not upset.
normally there's
at all.
someone or like some performance in this category that is just doesn't stand out as a good one, but this year all of these were excellent. So
Yep.
I don't know. I was
think I
pinning for Ben
kind of-
Starr. Ben Starr was my personal pick,
Ben Starr was also
but
great.
Neil Newbin absolutely deserves it. So
Yeah, Neil Newbin was my favorite. I would have been a little bit mad if Idris Elba won, only because I'm like, we know he's good. Like,
yeah, he has the same Yuri Lowenthal problem, right? Of being a professional that is so well known.
My only thing, and again, my only thing is like I feel like Yuri's performance like stood out above his other really good performances. Like I feel like it was a step above.
I'm
is
so
like
curious what
the
your take on
only-
Astarion's going to be as you continue to play Baldur's Gate 3. Why?
Oh yeah.
I think you're going to get to some lines that you're going to see why he won. It's going to be great.
No, I, to be clear, not upset at all.
Well, there seems to be an upper limit.
All right. Best audio design. If this went to anything but Hi-Fi Rush, I would have started a riot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it deserves this.
Despite
Yeah,
the fact
it
that Alan Wake 2, Dead Space, Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4 also do have phenomenal sound design, they absolutely deserve to be in this category. Hi-Fi Rush deserve to win. So
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost it's really interesting too because it's like if Hi-Fi Rush wasn't here, it would be Dead Space.
it would be a
in
toss-up,
terms
right?
of
like
in terms of like traditional, I guess like traditional sound design, right? In terms of like ambience and use of sound and stuff. But it's like Hi-Fi Rush is almost in its own thing because that's what it's all about. You know,
the whole game is that.
The whole game
because
is
like I could go on about Dead Space is really cool. Isaac will have different deliveries for his voices depending on his health and stuff like that. Like if he's really damaged, he'll have a more like out of breath, kind of rushed performance. But then at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because Hi-Fi Rush, that's what it's all about. So like, it's a yeah.
Great game.
Oh,
Everyone should
Chai.
play it that hasn't. All right, best score in music going to Masayoshi
Hell yeah.
Seppen from Final Fantasy 16's dev team.
Absolutely
Exceptional.
Absolutely.
I think every other game on here deserved to be here too. This is another category with great music this year everywhere.
I do want to give
is under-recognized for how good he is.
I do want to give the most improved award to Tears of the Kingdom. Not that I hated Breath of the Wild soundtrack, but it was very one note, and I feel like they did a much better job of like diversifying a lot of their music.
I loved listening to the Game Awards medley. That's medley that they had.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, it really doesn't compare. Final Fantasy 16 just
Especially
so good.
I just finished 16 over the weekend. The final boss theme is exquisite. It goes through like different phases of how like layered it is, and it's great. It's so
the
good.
highlight is all of the boss music. That's like the true highlight.
Yeah.
They go so hard.
I mean, Alex, you're playing through Final Fantasy 14 now, so you're getting to see like the OG. The reason why everyone loves Soken so much is the Final Fantasy 14 soundtrack, and you start to notice some of that. It's like I would say 14 is definitely even better than 16 in a lot of ways, just by nature of 14 having like 100-something hours of music at this point, having been made for it. So I just by sheer quantity and not necessarily quality, I think 14's got a leg up, but 16
There's
absolutely deserves to win.
Numerous hits in there somewhere.
Yes. Okay, best art direction, Alan Wake 2, absolutely deserved here.
Yep, 100%.
Looks fantastic. I have no comments about that.
Well,
I
definitely
think. Sorry.
Go for it. No, go for it.
I was gonna say the only one that this is probably like personal bias in here at this point. Is like that I don't really feel like belongs in here is Mario Bros. Wonder.
I think that's a hot take, Alex, and you should feel bad.
I feel every Mario thing I see, it's always the exact same design. Nothing really evolves about the graphics from what I've seen, despite.
I think that is explicitly.
Alex, I'm gonna stop you right
You're
there.
showing
As someone who doesn't,
you haven't played the game there yet.
As someone who doesn't even play that many Mario games, the little footage I've seen, you're wrong.
When you touch one of those wonder flowers, it is going to be the most equivalent experience you could have to doing drugs while not doing drugs. I think you're going to have a moment of realization.
And I'm going to say this too. I've seen online some people being like, "Oh, Alan Wake 2, it's just like realistic graphics. What's the big deal?" No.
It's not realistic at a point.
Well. Here's the thing, like, not only from a technical perspective does it look really nice, the combination of live action footage and gameplay is what brought it here in the first place.
Very fun artsy stuff that hasn't been done in
well done. And it's this nice culmination because Remedy has been doing that for a long time, mixing like real footage with whatever game that they're working on, and this is the culmination of that. It's just so well done.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to best narrative. I haven't played Alan Wake 2. I'm not upset at it winning from everything I've heard. I think every game up here is a great pick. I think there was no bad choice here. And Alan Wake 2, I think if I were having to pick one of these games, my personal pick, having not played Alan Wake 2, would have gone to either Phantom Liberty or Baldur's Gate 3. But Baldur's Gate 3 is hard to account for because it's a choice-based narrative, and you could accidentally choose a narrative that sucks, right? It's one of those things where it's hard to...
There's definitely something to be said for a focused narrative in this
I think
that's why
focused.
Well, again, that's why there needs to be more technical categories of like maybe a category that's dedicated to like best use of...
It's why Baldur's Gate 3 won Best RPG, right? But it's also why it shouldn't win Best Narrative, I think. Alan Wake 2 is phenomenal. From everything I've heard, and so
and shout out to Final Fantasy 16. I haven't finished it yet, but damn good.
Yeah, I finished it. I don't know if I would put it in the running next to Phantom Liberty, but it would be dang close. Like it would be up there for me. But it's also 16 has a storytelling style that I think a lot of people are going to bounce off of, just because Japan loves dial exposition, and 16 avoids a lot of that with active time lore. But once you get into some of the later side quests, which are really good, you end up with just a lot of stuff to do that kind of bogs down the narrative a little bit, even though it pays off at the end. So
I would say that's the only issue, is that so much happens. There's like 3 or 4 different time jumps in the story that it can feel a little bit like too big, if that makes sense. It can feel like a little unwieldy at times.
Well, after having the Marvel Spider-Man 2 Games Club episode that you guys had, what do you think about it being for narrative?
I think
here?
it deserves to be here. I don't think it deserves to win. I think
exactly how
definitively it is the bottom of the list of games that are here, but I don't have a game that I would have put over it.
It's still really, really good. It's
really good.
act.
It deserves the nomination.
It's a little messy though.
But
it has
no
kind of
way
the same
it was
issue
gonna
as like 16, where it's just a little bit. There's points where it doesn't mesh together quite as well, and I think 16 ends up meshing better than Spider-Man 2 does.
I think there are years where it could have won, but this is not that year.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Absolutely.
All right. Best game direction.
I'm seeing a lot of repeats.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the repeat one. I think this is literally the same games, aside from
Almost
16.
Oh my god.
Some 16 for Wonder.
Jesus.
But this is also the year where it's hard to have a problem with that, I think, because I think there was so many good games this year, and game direction is basically like the runners-up award in a lot of cases. So
I will say, I think we're going to be very critical of how this Game Awards like overall was handled, but I think in terms of the picks that they made for nominees and picks for like the winner of the category, I think this has probably been one of the strongest years that they've had.
Yes.
Just in
Other
terms
than
of
the
like
indie
what
stuff,
deserves to be here.
Yeah, the indie stuff was just wacky, but it's also
They always have an
wacky
issue with
every
indie
year,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worse than any other year. But yeah, Alan Wake 2, Wyatt, you're the only one that's been playing it here. I think you would agree with it winning so far.
110%. Absolutely.
I think game direction, this award in particular, is about like doing something a little bit off the beaten path in terms of direction. And so I think there are only 2 games up here I think would be my picks for winning, which is Wonder and Alan Wake 2. I don't think the rest do anything risky enough. But
the thing about Alan Wake 2, and I mentioned this when I talked about it during our Halloween episode, is that there are so many things that at first don't make sense. And you're trying, especially if you haven't played Control or Alan Wake, which you don't have to play, but it has, like I said, it has an internal logic that it sticks to, and there's such a sense of like confidence of this nonsense will make sense. If you just give us the time and set things up properly, this will all come together. And it's really, really good at taking all these wacky things and still having it grounded and make sense and follow its own rules, which is why for me, like if I was picking a winner for this category, that would be why I would pick it, because it's just the direction is inherently so strong.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty great summary of it. All right, the big one, Game of the Year. We all knew this was gonna probably go to Baldur's Gate 3. I think there was a rough shot in hell that it would go to either Alan Wake 2 or Tears of the Kingdom. Alternatively,
They do like to pick the quote unquote artsy fartsy games from time to time.
Yeah, like I could see either one of those winning if it was earlier in the year. If this were any other year, any one of these games could have been Game of the Year, right? Yeah. And any number of other games as well. Like you could have thrown Final Fantasy 16 absolutely could have won in many years.
Sea of Stars probably would have been up here based on all the positive feedback it's gotten.
Yeah, I have no idea how this year has been so good for games, because it is really like this is a category you could have added another 6 games to and it would have felt fine, right?
Absolutely.
And still everyone would have agreed that Baldur's Gate 3 deserved to win. So
it makes me rather scared to ask if this year was so good for games. Where can we go from here?
I'm sure we'll talk about it. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Next year's Game Awards is going to be a slap in the face, I think.
Next year's
It's
Game
gonna
Awards
be-
is going to be ranking the expansions from this year's
it's
game.
gonna
Yeah.
be it's gonna be a snap back to reality. This was the honeymoon, and now we're in the
Not to be doom and
the-
gloom. I think what
Yeah.
happened is that we're at the like bubble where all the games that got internally delayed before the pandemic happened have come out. So this was the year of like the
Yeah.
flood of things that was like being worked on in the background released. Maybe some of that will bleed into next year, and like Starfield isn't even on this list, right? Like there's other great games that weren't even up here. So Hi-Fi Rush was like probably my personal game of the year, and still absolutely I have no problem with it not being here because everything else was as good.
Well, it's interesting too because everyone's gonna have their own opinion of what game of the year was. Mine, at the time of us recording this episode, there's a lot of games that I haven't finished yet. Mine would probably be Spider-Man 2, just because it's one that I really love and one that I've finished. There's a lot of games that I still want to finish that might take that, that spot. But
if I had to pick from games I've finished on this list, because I'm like in Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3, not done yet, it would be Resident Evil 4, I think, just because that game awakened me to a level of enjoying action horror games that I didn't think I was capable of. Not to say that I didn't enjoy Tears of the Kingdom or Mario Bros. Wonder as well.
Look, when you compare a chainsaw with a knife, that's grounds in and of itself.
I mean, it's a wacky category, right? This was such a good year that it's hard to have anything negative to say about this category. I think just because every pick here is great. So all right, let's talk about the actual Game Awards. Because we've got some stuff
because the awards are not the actual.
And I want to point out, I can guarantee you, we just spent 3 times as much time as the Game Awards spent talking about the awards here.
I think we did actually
minutes,
do.
like,
that is twice the amount that that they spent talking about awards.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So what I want to do for this part is we're going to go through high level. The issues we have with this year, I think, are very apparent. I think a lot of content creators are also on that same wavelength of, hey, it's really weird that we continually had a bunch of like spots where they just burned through 6 awards at once. Super wacky and very strange.
Especially indie game and debut indie game.
And I'll
they
say
just rushed right through it.
For reference, I'm scrubbing through the Game Awards to find clips to put up of things, and it is hard for me to find a clip of them talking about awards because of how much other stuff is here.
It was weird. It felt like they treated a lot of the actual awards here like they did the
action of the
pre-show
game. They
awards.
just breeze through.
Yeah, they just rushed
he's
through
not
the
on the
action
stage.
game.
He's not on the stage. There's not
Not
gonna be
even
someone
on
that
the
comes up
stage,
and
yeah.
announces it.
Yeah,
it's like no fanfare whatsoever.
No fanfare. On to the next one. Let's move on to the next category. Just art direction. We did art direction.
Oh God! And also go back for a second. It's really weird to see Best Action Game just off to the side with little fanfare, especially when Armored Core won. And compared to how excited he was to introduce anything FromSoft related,
he looks
it
like
got
he just wants to
no
move
love
on.
from him
He's
this
just
year
moving on.
whatsoever. Yeah, like unfazed. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
because remember how much he hyped up Elden Ring, right?
That's why when we had our discussion about this yesterday, that's why I have the opinion that Jeff Keighley appears as fake most of the time, because it's very like he just had we gotta look excited, gotta act excited, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's very sanitized and very like putting on, and which is what you have to do to a degree for any like award show. That's part of it. You have to keep it on the schedule and stuff, and that's just part of that. But it's like you couldn't put up a little bit of footage for every game. You couldn't have like the guy who the first time director of a game, by the way, in FromSoft. I think he did like parts of Sekiro, and his name is the biggest on it. But Armored Core 6, he picked that up entirely off of Miyazaki, who left it all to him, and he didn't get to go up and receive any award in person for winning Game of the Year.
Well, and that's the thing, and the part that I brought up in that conversation was I think like Jeff's excitement comes from a very real place. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of sad to see sometimes that the show that he's made has like it's almost like it's gotten away from him in a way where I think his genuine excitement for the industry feels as fake as it does sometimes.
Yeah, like
Why didn't we get more of those clips like we had for the cooking game?
Because
Yeah.
we have to have
Because you don't
Kojima coming
understand.
out and talking about
Exactly.
nothing for 10 minutes.
So
For
this is
10
why I've gone to this.
minutes.
I enjoy Hideo Kojima's games. I think he makes some really fascinating stuff. This was so unnecessary.
So long for
Yeah,
no reason.
I'm happy with
So
the announcement
long.
and interested, but it
Like,
showed
it's okay to have
nothing
him come up and
lasted a
talk
long
for like
time.
30 seconds or something. Like, this is where you should have the "please wrap it up" sign, right? It should be for
Yeah,
Hideo
really.
Kojima and Jeff Keighley, and it
No,
should
no,
more
Jeff is
importantly
on
be a
stage,
note
so
to
we're
Jeff
not going to wrap
Keighley.
it up.
To wrap it up for Jeff. But yeah, like this goes on for so long, and then Jordan Peele comes out, and it's just like such a lengthy bit of time, and then this weird Jurassic Park trailer and a bunch of stuff like that. It was wacky. This was a weird balance of things this year that I think didn't fit super well. So
Because all of that could have been communicated with the trailer and just saying from Hideo Kojima in collaboration with Jordan Peele. That's all you needed. Because that's all that PT needed. That's all
Mhm.
that Death Stranding needed. Because it's Kojima. Everyone's going to be paying attention to what he does anyway. You don't have to have him come out for 10 minutes and then ask him what kind of game he's making, and then all they can say is, it's a game. Like,
It's a game and
what
a
are you
movie,
doing?
Wyatt.
yeah, absolutely wacky. I think that's really the overall note for the show, though, is like it just felt weird this year that so much time was being spent on not award things. Like, we always have this problem. Like, the Game Awards is only half about awards. This year it was like only a quarter about awards, right?
Yeah.
It was definitely very limited, and the fact that they like rush people off stage, like this point where Neil Newbin comes up on stage and is having
Whoa,
to.
his was so fast.
His was well. He was
Yeah.
I think the first main show award, and you can see that he's just like pushed off of stage basically. Like he has to talk.
He
and,
said like 5 words.
And here are the nominees.
he says 5 words. He wins. He walks up, and then he says a couple things. He's like, the music starts playing.
Again. And to my agents, I will thank you later. I'm sorry. I'm going to wrap it up.
Right there.
apparently.
Oh my
They
god.
start
All I
doing
will
that,
say,
and he's only
please,
been talking
that's
for like
okay.
20
The
seconds at that
community
point.
has reached out to
Yeah.
so many of us at Larian.
Yeah,
And, like-
he said it
Something
with
was
the,
seen,
let me thank
and
my
they
mom
were
and my dad,
represented
and
by
then
this
they're
game
hitting him with
when
the
they lost
music.
hope. They
The
felt
man is
isolated, they
teary-eyed.
felt alone. This game
And it
brought them
hasn't been a
together
minute
and
yet.
gave them something to
And
push
yet we
Oh.
for,
somehow
to help
had
them more.
time
Both
to
of them
talk
are
about,
teary-eyed. Look at
Thank you
that.
and
so
yet
much for
we somehow
seeing
had
us.
time to talk about Simu Liu's broken foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Neil Newbin is cut out of here and basically forced to walk away.
And you know what? I understand why they want to limit that. I mean, Christopher Judge talked for like 8 minutes. I didn't hate that he talked for 8 minutes.
Yeah,
I get
like, I
needing
think
to
it's
limit
reasonable
it, but I would prefer
to do like a 5-minute limit or like a 3-minute limit
Yeah.
if you really want to push it. But
Yeah,
any
yeah.
shorter than that, you really start to push into like some people won't have a lot to say, right? Some people will go up and they'll be like, "Hey, I want to thank the team and everything," and go out. But some people will have like important things to say or things that they want to be heard, and it's important to allow that when this
Or
big
people that
moment
they want-
happens.
And
Or people
here's the
that they
thing.
want to honor because they poured their
They
life into
passed
Yeah.
away.
and here's the thing too, right? It's part of a larger issue of, I know this wouldn't be a simple change at all. This would be a very complicated change because of how they've been doing things for 10 years. But I think at this point, you really need to have an award show and then an E3 show. You have to separate the two at this point because it has become very
Yeah.
apparent this year that the two things cannot play nice in
Or
a
you need to
room
split it into 2
together.
nights. I think there's a
No,
reason.
exactly.
I don't think there's a
Exactly.
way they can actually separate the two without hurting either viewership or the like vibes, because I do think it is nice to have like, oh, you come off of the Monster Hunter Wilds premiere into Game of the Year and you're like, that's exciting, right? That's a
I
cool
really
one.
like the reveals.
But I
Yeah,
think
I
It's
the
a
show's
problem.
just so long now, and you need to have more
Mhm.
time for those awards to be received. So it's like split the categories into 2 days, right? We're gonna do a 2-night event. It's gonna be maybe slightly shorter each night to allow for it to be less fast paced. But yeah, it just seems like it's too much to fit in one show now, especially because we don't have E3 anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of those announcements probably get pushed to Game Awards.
Also, no shade on Timothy Chalamet as an actor, but why was he giving out game? Why was he announcing
So
Game of the
this
Year?
is the weird, yeah. let's talk about Jeff Keighley's celebrity crushes, right? This is a weird thing that keeps happening. If I could find Timothy Chalamet.
The only thing that Timothy Chalamet has to do with video games is that there's a Dune video game that he may or may not voice in, and that he looks like the puppet from Lies of P.
But he used to mod 360 controllers, Alex. You don't understand.
And I want to give credit to Timothy Chalamet a little bit, because he walked up, he said his thing, and he left. He didn't do.
He didn't overstay as well.
Stay there for 5 minutes. He came up and was professional, and then announced the award and left. I think that's the best way to do it. But
there's other people like
he used to mod 360 controllers. Who actually knows him for that? How many? I didn't even know he did that until that night. How many people actually know who he is because of that?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think things like Anthony Mackie coming up, this took forever. It was super hard to parse. Though I will say, I heard from people in the audience, that were in the audience, that the reason why his bit was so weird is there were some really loud hecklers that were shouting things. But it just didn't pick up on the stream audio. So
I get why he was there, because he was one of the game adaptations, at least.
But it's still weird.
Yeah, but who
right?
cares? Who
clearly
cares?
He doesn't care, right?
No, yeah.
I think that's why, the case of instead of the best presentation for awards we've ever had at the Game Awards, I think was Reggie Fils-Aimé came up and did his presentation last year, and that was such a good speech. And I feel like if you're gonna be doing this every year, we need to move away from the weird celebrity bits like this and do more game industry veterans. And they got Vince Zampella to come up at one point this year, who is a game industry legend. Yeah. And that should just be all the presenters, right?
And then we had Matthew McConaughey.
Well, and then what year was it? It was either at Summer Games Fest or it was Game Awards. They had Phil Spencer. They had, I think it was Doug Bowser, and then one of the guys from PlayStation all just come up and do this little presentation. And it was kind of this
cool.
Wholesome.
Yeah,
it was
and they
this
could have
cool,
done that
wholesome
this year,
moment.
They had people from all three, from Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony here at the Game Awards, so they absolutely could have done that. Imagine Shuhei Yoshida presents an award, Phil Spencer presents one. We're gonna give it out to different people. I think that'd be great. And we didn't get that. We got instead Anthony Mackie's rambling while getting heckled. Which you
see how long this is? But this got more time than the best debut indie game category and the best indie game category combined.
Combined. Yeah.
Absolutely bizarre.
God bless them. All the celebrities all the celebrities aside from Hideo Kojima that came out to talk have English as their first language, but multiple, both the guy who went up for winning best direction, because Alan Wake 2 won that, right? And Game of the Year, and also when Tears of the Kingdom won its categories. Those people that went up either don't speak English or do not have English as their first language. So why are you giving them less than a minute to say thank you for an award that they're winning? Come on, this is not fair. And you have these bumbling, the equivalent of bumbling idiots just going on making unfunny jokes for 5 minutes.
Can we rewind for a second? Can we point out how disinterested Vince Zampella looks?
Oh, absolutely. He's not.
He has the biggest. I could be literally anywhere.
I think he was probably tired of all of the other celebrity isms going on.
Yeah, he's the kind of person to see through the bullshit immediately and to not.
I mean, the man works at EA. He deals with that garbage every single day.
Yeah.
God.
Yep. Okay. Well, I do want to talk about some other stuff from this while we have the chance to. What is everyone most excited about? We're not going to go through every announcement here because we did a reaction. We went through a lot of them and talked about our thoughts. There's a few that I want to call some special attention to for me. First of which is Kimuri, which is Ikumi Nakamura's new thing that looks absolutely sick.
What's her studio called?
Unseen.
Unseen.
Is that what we were going with? I don't know if it's actually Unseen.
I think it is.
But yeah, this looks great. Whatever this is, we have no context. I think we're working off of the assumption that it's probably a co-op monster shooter.
Regardless of what it is, like it looks like people had fun making it.
Exactly. Like this art style is so cool. I want to fight those things as these people. I understand what they're going for. Music's great. Yeah, this was a great presentation, and Ikumi Nakamura is the most adorable presenter I think anyone has ever seen.
Bare minimum, the most likable.
Yeah, most likable, absolutely. So yeah, anyone else have things that stood out to them as?
I do want to say, as like an overall, one thing that we were pointing out while we were streaming the Game Awards was that so many great art styles in so many of the games that were in.
Absolutely.
It's just like super eye-popping, interesting stuff. Even if it was a game that had a quote-unquote realistic art style, it still had like a somewhat memorable like color palette. Or
unless it was a sci-fi game, in which case they all look the same.
Specifically the sci-fi like battle royale or like extraction shooters.
Understand.
They keep getting advertised at the Game Awards.
Yeah. And they just all look the same.
Yeah, like right after Kamuri, we had this game, which I'm already forgetting the name for, even though I just looked at it. No Rest for the Wicked. That also looks phenomenal.
Yeah, that looks really
what I wanted to bring up.
Very interested.
Super into action RPGs. This is by the Ori team, so whatever it is, it's going to be beautiful. And I'm sure they can do a great job at this. So, yeah, like this art style is super striking and looks amazing.
Look at the lighting coming through that stained glass window.
Everything looks good, and this is not even the gameplay. And they get to the little bit of gameplay that looks great as well.
That's another thing.
Art style translates.
That's another thing I'll say. I feel like in years past we've had more gameplay for the trailers that we've gotten.
Yeah, this year was a lot of cinematic pre-rendered stuff.
But I think
not that much gameplay.
Well, talking about
I think it's more gameplay than what we normally get.
I think we've actually got more gameplay this year because almost everything at least showed some of, like, the Prince of Persia trailer was a lot of cinematics and then it cut to gameplay.
You know what we technically got gameplay of this time around? Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2. we got gameplay again.
Yeah. Exodus had this cool like CG trailer. Like this definitely looks like generic sci-fi, but I'm interested. I want to know what's here.
I like some of the
important thing about this team. This is a new team that is founded from BioWare devs. They were founded in 2019, so this is one of the team that a bunch of the old Mass Effect team went to. So the reason it looks like Mass Effect is because it's made by the same people.
Well, doesn't that make sense?
I'm a little bit more interested in it now, and the fact that they were willing to show off pre-alpha gameplay footage, I think, is very good. The attitude of like actually showing at least a functional video game in your trailer, I think, is very important.
Knowing a game is likely going to be more narrative heavy gives me a little bit. I'm okay seeing a bit more of a cinematic trailer if I know that the game is going to be relying heavily on cinematics and the story involved.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. Like here, we don't really know what this is. I'm just glad it's not an extraction shooter.
Imagine really after all this, it turns into another battle royale.
Speaking of things that are not an extraction shooter, they did shadow drop the finals, which is great, and everyone should go play it. I'm really glad that they that was a fun little. I mean, it was rumored beforehand, but I'm glad that it was shadow dropped.
Yeah, rumored by you guys.
Well, it was rumored just because it kind of made sense of like the timing for the beta window with the Game Awards being the release window lined up. Like it makes sense, but it's also none of us expected it to happen. I think it was like a 50-50.
We got I think it was right at the end of the pre-show. We got a bunch of Metaphor stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Metaphor, ReFantagio, which is. I think of the like Atlas projects that are currently in dev is the most interesting to me, just because it's
by far.
It looks super
it's also
wacky,
really weird looking.
It looks weird, and we see bits of like action gameplay here, but then it turns to turn-based, and so I'm like, what's happening? Like, what is the game? If you're doing both of these.
It's 2023 and it looks like the PS2 is back in full swing because this
was like the most
game
PS2
that would be on the
game,
PS2.
The PS2 year we've had in a while of like just games doing wacky stuff. Even AAA stuff has been wacky this year. Of like Baldur's Gate 3 does a ton of weird things that most AAA wouldn't do. Alan Wake 2 is insane from what I hear. So
it's insane. Trying to explain what happens in Alan Wake 2 makes you insane. It made me insane. Also, shout out to Light No Fire, which I am tentatively excited for.
Hey, look, it's gonna be a good game. Whether it's a good game when it comes out or a good
Oh,
game
yeah,
in 10
it's
years,
5 years later.
we'll find out.
That's very interesting. Oh god, what was the one
I
of
do
the
want to
games
hang
that
on Light No Fire for a second, just because I'm super curious for this game, and I think the reason this game will probably be okay is that it is almost definitely based on No Man's Sky tech. Like the lighting looks like it's a No Man's Sky engine.
There's
Um,
reused
they have
animations
the-
for sure.
yeah, there's a
and they
point
have
where one
the-
of them takes off while sitting on the back of one of the flying things, and you 1-to-1, that is the camera launch from the Starship launching in No Man's Sky.
and they
Like, it is
have
insane
also
angle.
the experience and knowledge of what happens when you
Mhm.
overpromise and get overpromised for with the hype train that is.
Like right
I
here, this
feel
is
like
the
we are-
1-to-1 the Starship camera angle
Yep,
for No Man's Sky.
absolutely,
Pulls out the same way,
absolutely.
lifts you up, and you're like, that is the same thing.
I feel like we are
Absolutely.
already seeing more in-depth gameplay from this than we did at the origin of No
When
Man's
when
Sky.
we do
Well,
end
that's
up
the
having
thing.
a
They
games
gave us
club
a
for
lot of
this game,
gameplay. They did have a lot of gameplay for No Man's Sky. Just a lot of it was not.
Well, it was much emptier.
when
Yeah,
we
I think
do,
the point they made here is that this is multiplayer from the start. Of like they're showing multiplayer working immediately and not trying to be
Yeah.
coy about it.
when we do end up doing a games club for this game, because I mean this definitely feels like it'll be one.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys going to be riding a bird or a dragon? Because I saw the giant
not
bird and I'm just
both?
like,
A druid.
Here's
a
a dragon that
dragon.
almost looks like it has butterfly wings.
Yeah, if I can get a Quetzalcoatl type dragon, like the long
Ooh.
serpent dragon, absolutely.
I also
riding
do
that.
think. I think Ryan and I were talking about this, but I do think that a giant world instead of a giant solar system or galaxy is a much better use of the randomly generated tech that they have.
yeah, you're gonna have a lot better open that or like space or like in between space that is not a empty and open. You're not gonna be
You won't be one
mainly
biome planets anymore.
not one biome planets. You're gonna have your main experience won't be going through 3 different menus and 7 loading screens to just get from one place to another.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious how Light No Fire is going to be. There's Simalu coming out to talk about his broken leg for an hour.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, something else will
To be
happen.
clear, nothing wrong against Simu Liu. I like him.
Oh no.
But
Absolutely.
it just
Super weird presentation of the award.
Yeah.
This is another really interesting looking game, Windblown,
Yes, absolutely.
by Dead Cells creators.
Oh yeah, very gory too.
Looks very wacky and fun. Lots
And
of
then-
animal people getting exploded. So,
And absolutely eviscerated.
yep. This also, just looked like a good time, and it's definitely like a co-op thing. Thrasher by the Thumper devs.
Mhm.
Uh,
I am very
I'd be,
curious. I am very
I'd be-
curious. Go for it.
I was gonna say I'd just be not fulfilling my role as a comic book nerd if I didn't mention that Blade was revealed.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
that's
Get
literally what I was
revealed.
about to say. I'm very interested to see how Arcane's second whack at a vampire game goes down.
Especially
Yeah.
because this is Leon and not Arcane Austin.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
functionally different studio.
They did say it was third person, which I find really interesting.
Yes.
But I think that could be really cool.
Hey, you're gonna get to see his like really fun combo moves and sword flourishes a lot
it's gonna
better
be
in third
great.
person.
Yeah. I do think this
I-
is probably going to be the furthest out thing we've seen, because Bethesda did come out on
Yeah.
Twitter afterwards and go, this game is very early in development. It has like just gone into production, so it's going to be a year, probably 2, before we see enough information about this to know release time.
Let's see, what's the other thing? What I'm excited for isn't like a new or like unheard of release, but it's more info on Black Myth Wukong.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Black
Especially
Myth
because I
Wukong's a
voted
great
for it and it
game.
didn't come out yet. But now that
Add it to the
I've
pile.
now that I've tasted the flesh of a Souls-like,
Dined on the wine of Lies of P.
Have they
It's
said that's
time
what it's
for you
going to be?
have-
Is it going to be a Souls-like?
It's going to be an
I
action
think
game.
so. It just looks like an action RPG.
It has Soulsy
Oh.
looking boss fights.
There was a really
Yeah.
interesting Soulsy looking game, and I don't even remember what it was now.
Oh, I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I'll bring us to that one in a second. Yeah, the Black Myth Wukong trailer. These designs are just incredible. Like every time I see
the
these
artist
designs,
really
I'm like,
grabs me.
what a phenomenal job that
And this has
they
been
did
this has
here.
been cooking
Oh,
in
what it
the
was.
oven for a while. So
Mhm.
it's
Also,
there's a
I will
lot of
take
excitement.
any Journey to the West content I can get my hands on. My God.
Oh my lord!
This looks like it could be a particularly good adaptation.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it's a
absolutely. This is
straight
the
up
chance to
adaptation.
be. As long as we don't see any like weird microtransactions pop up for Black Myth Wukong, I think we're good. Any indication of a live service with this game will worry me, but I think as long as it's
Yeah.
actually just a game that's
I
going to
would
release.
genuinely be shocked if they started talking about live service
Yeah,
elements.
gotta worry.
Also,
about it.
I
You can
think
never
that
be
was
sure.
the debut of their English dub, and it sounds great.
Yes,
I see
it
no
was.
reason why this needs to, should, or could be live service.
Exactly.
Yeah, you would
Not the
think
type of
that
game
about
for
a
it.
lot of games, though.
They'll find a way.
This one only had a CG trailer, so my
Hellblade
excitement
made us
is
angry again.
I don't even want to talk about it. This is a CG trailer, so my excitement is quelled a little bit by that. But the Last Sentinel looked really neat, just from a just from a aesthetic perspective. The look of all of the different armor and
Yes.
robots.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of ex Rockstar developers and their debut title.
Is it
Yeah.
ex-Rockstar?
Yeah.
That could be really interesting.
It's just a CG trailer. We have to see more, but just based on a CG trailer, it looks cool.
Yeah, I'm fully super interested in whatever comes out of this at some point. This is probably another one of the things that's further away though.
Yeah, because
it's
only,
coming for a
only
while.
CG.
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely going to be some good, like replicant Blade Runner type vibes and themes going on.
Oh,
Plus
yeah,
it has
they
one of
got
those-
they got the Ghost in the Shell
Ghost in the
inspiration
Shell.
with the
Yeah.
geisha bots, so
Plus,
they're
they
in
have
the right
the,
place.
They have the helmet that like starts on the back.
Oh, the
and it just folds
retractable
onto
one,
your
yeah.
face. I love me a
Yes.
good retractable helmet. What can I say?
And I don't know if
Oh,
this was the game we were
Ronin.
talking about or not. Rise of the Ronin is
Yeah.
Koei Tecmo's
Oh, I was
new,
thinking
like,
of
action
that
thing.
that one that was something the first Berserker or last Berserker.
Last
something.
Berserker, yes, or the first Berserker, I think that is. Yeah, that
Oh, Team
also looked very
Ninja, that's
good.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how the first Berserker will be because I think it's related to DNF, which is like an MMO thing, and then DNF Duel, which is the fighting game.
This looks like neither of those things.
This is not
think-
that. This is the Rise of the Ronin.
I think the biggest question mark trailer, at least for me, was
Yeah, that was
Den of Wolves.
Yeah, I didn't know
if you
what I
remember
was
that-
supposed to feel.
What was that one again?
That's the one where the guy's in like the interrogation room and it's cut with footage of like a heist or something.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what was going on there.
It had I mean, this is something that only Ryan is going to understand, but do you know when they like I got the same feeling of watching it where like the new heel wrestling stable comes on stage for the first time and they play like really cool evil music and then they just stand there and look bad, and then the 5 minute, like, they're not bad like terrible, but like bad like evil, and then the segment ends after 5 minutes of them staring at each other while the cool music plays, and they like I had the same feeling where I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to care? Okay.
Wow.
It was very weird. Not for this, for oh god, the
Den
thing
of
Wyatt brought
Wolves.
up, I forget.
Yeah,
Den
I
of
don't even think
Wolves,
I have
and
I don't think I have a
it's very
timestamp
weird.
for that here because I think nobody knew what it was. So.
For this one, the first Berserker, I thought that the visual style of this
Oh,
looked
yes.
really striking.
Fantastic
Not, like,
Absolutely.
what we see, the gameplay looks really cool, and the visual style looks very unique and cool. Like a
Mhm.
great blend of sort of that 2D anime styling, but with 3D models, which
Yeah.
And the
were-
particles.
All right,
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
Oh, that was an eye.
Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. The best reveal here was Skull and Bones and that release date.
Oh,
that
that's
we've
right.
all been clamoring for.
I laughed
That's
so hard.
what we all
seeing it.
really care about.
You mean that we're now ending it on a Skull and Bones trailer, Wyatt?
No, we can't end
after
there.
everything else. We've gone through our most wanted things, and now we have to end on Skull and Bones.
No, I
hope
have to
was
do my
gonna just
role.
not
I
mention
have
it.
to serve my role. I can't not say the words mecha break because it had robots in it, Ryan. You can't let it end without me saying that.
I'm curious about Mecha Break as well.
There's apparently a lot of misinformation about it because it's not a battle royale. Apparently, all of the modes that the alpha has been tested for are like 6v6. So I don't know what.
As long as it's not a battle royale.
Well, yeah, to be fair, they didn't actually say what kind of game it was in the trailer. They just had cool looking things on the screen, but it was gameplay, so like okay. But
It looks
like, if this is a battle royale,
co-op
I would be
bullet hell or something.
Yeah, like it looks like 4 people against a big machine, but
yeah, this looks, if anything, it's PvPvE or something, right? Where like maybe like another team can screw you
No,
up
that's
and you're
just
fighting
straight
against
up-
the big thing.
Oh no,
just
it's
straight up
Exo
the
Primal.
camera.
yeah.
But it looked cool art style.
Oh,
I'm scared.
Oh, there we have the guy calling Jeff a delicious man.
Oh
Yep.
god.
Oh yeah, he was there for a different reason than everybody
The
else.
flirting. That's right. Another quick shout out to Tales of Kenzera.
Yes.
How am I forgetting these things? We just did this.
List.
Yeah.
I have
Well, 'cause there's so
a
many.
whole other
This was
list.
a
I have a whole other
reveals.
list right in front of me too, which is helpful.
Also doesn't have a timestamp, but I think it was. There he is.
Yeah,
yeah. This
cool.
game looked really.
First of
good.
all,
yeah.
First of all, finest drip of the night. I think we could all
Best
agree.
outfit, great story behind the development. This game looks
Bring
fun.
back shoulder capes and capes in general.
Again, another good example of like really strong art direction across.
Oh my
most
God,
of
yeah.
the,
Look
the
at that.
projects this
Yeah,
year.
and really interesting art influences that just like I don't think I've ever seen a game
Yeah.
like this before. Visually.
Tales of Kanzeria Zhao.
I'm in. That looks interesting.
All right.
Some really good Metroidvanias were showing off for sure.
Anything else in the show that we wanted to mention? Don't Nod has a new thing. We don't know what it is. That's about it for Don't Nod.
First new non-remake of Mana game in like 15 years or
Yes.
something.
Oh, yeah.
The dormant franchise brought back by Square Enix to be probably thrown to the garbage again, just like with the Valkyrie profile and Star Ocean.
It looked really neat.
It did. I love the art style for it.
Yeah.
The
Harmonium.
Def developer game, yeah. That was so
looked
pretty.
very interesting. World of
I don't think it's
Gochu.
gonna be for me, but
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
Big note. Let's exit it. Prince of Persia looking very good. Musical performances this year were, I think, very good all around. Good set of
100%.
choices.
It's a pretty good year when the worst one was a Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's because it wasn't as wild as the other two.
I think for something like the Game Awards, you want the really exciting, fast-paced tracks and not the like ballads.
I thought I talked to some of my friends, and I know that some of them thought that.
This was
the
what I wanted
Alan
to
Wake
mention.
musical number was the most memorable part of the night.
The crazy Sega thing. So this was Sega was
right.
being coy. All up until the Game Awards, they were coyly teasing something and going like, "This is going to be a new era for Sega." And they're like, "This is going to be big. It's going to be huge." Afterwards. They paid some content creators to react to just this segment and like do a little 5-minute thing afterwards and talking about the segment. And I was like, "This is wild." So what this actually is Sega announced like 5 games at once that are all remakes or new versions of their classic catalog. So we're getting a new Jet Set Radio. We're getting a new Crazy Taxi. New Shinobi.
How much can you then claim? Oh, this is going to be a new era when you're rebooting a bunch of stuff. I feel like
when it's stuff
a
that people
new
have been
era
like, asking for forever, I think that is okay. Like I think you can claim that when it's things that people have been wanting for a while, and
I think
in particular, Sega's been in like a weird spot.
I think if you're claiming it's a new era, I think new stuff should come along with that. Personally.
I don't think this is the place to do it in a trailer like this, right? This is you can rail off the arcade nostalgia trailer of Jet Set Radio Streets of Rage and all this other classic Sega stuff.
Sure.
If you then threw in like a brand new thing in the middle of it, it would be like, what? Excuse me?
Oh, I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying the announcement itself was bad. It's just the hype, like the lead up to it, was a little overblown.
I don't know. I don't think it's overblown. I think for what this announcement, I think their hype was justified because this is a set of things people have been asking for ages. Of like, give me specifically Jet Set Radio, but all their other stuff too was like great announcements. And Sega's not like stopping on anything. They've got.
Can we back up to that guy's face? Hold on, I
And you
can't.
should unmute that too.
Sega time. Are you happy? Are you happy that
Which I will say that's a cute reference to the like Sega does what Nintendo don't ads, where they had that sound, but it was like a guy's skeleton who was playing like he was playing Sonic, and Sonic was so awesome that it like ripped all of the skin and organs off of his body, and it just went.
Yeah.
yes?
That's cute. It's cute.
And then the last thing, my obviously most hyped game of the show.
Yes, of course.
The trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds. I think great trailer.
Oh, look at that.
Especially because you
really
don't know
cool
that it's
looking.
Monster Hunter at first.
I thought that was a
many-
chocobo at first.
That's where they get
Yeah,
you.
that's right.
That's a separate problem. That's a different issue you're having.
Run,
Um,
Terrence!
And then you see what looks like either a longsword or a greatsword. Thin or thin
Oh yeah,
greatsword
that
or
takes up
thick longsword.
the size of the person's entire body, and then it's this could be Monster Hunter.
Yeah, but
I
this
think
is
the amount of creatures they have on screen at one time looks really interesting. Like I think that'll
Oh,
make
yeah.
a big
Yes.
difference in the way the game plays.
And it's pretty clear the implication here is this is going to be like larger in scale.
Yeah.
Because I think this looks less.
Probably not going to be on Switch.
Yes, I would say
It's
this
not.
looks less visually impressive than World, but has a better art style and looks
Mhm.
better for being a Monster Hunter game. Like it definitely seems like they're going to take this in a bunch of really nice directions and have like a bunch of different areas that probably are in one, because we can see like mountains in the distance and then whatever
Mhm.
weird Elder's Recess
Yeah,
looking thing
mountains.
is here.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have like the sort of oasis bit here, and then we have
And,
the
like,
straight
savanna.
desert out to the right.
And the whole like thing with like the dust revealing. I think the implication here is weather is going to be playing a big role in whatever this area
Well,
is.
like-
yeah,
Lightning
we had that
earlier in
whole
the
like
trailer.
sand or snowstorm following the guy, or was that some sort of
Exactly.
avalanche? Or, yeah.
So I'm expecting that. A bunch of people have been wondering, like, is this the next main line? Is this a spinoff? The hint
It is.
is that you can see how many dragon heads do you have. Let's play a classic counting game. One
I already
dragon
know.
head, two dragon
Three,
head, three,
four,
4, 5, and 6. And the way Monster Hunter denotes mainline games traditionally is the logo will have as many dragon heads as the generation. So
Man.
6 means
didn't
it's a
know
new
that.
generation. It is the next generational jump in Monster Hunter. Because World has been 5. So World and Rise.
And so was Rise for some reason.
Well,
Those games
they
are like
always
almost
come out
nothing
pairs.
alike.
They always
Well,
come
yeah,
in
but
pairs. Even if
it's
they
weird.
don't play the same, they're always in pairs. And it looks like this is taking a bit after both. There's some other really cool details here of like the character
Hi, Jeff.
around clearly has like there's a bow gun strapped to this thing, but he has a great sword, so it looks like maybe weapon swapping will be a thing. You've got like a way to swap your weapon at your animal. So we don't know what this is called yet.
I am also gonna really enjoy seeing all the desert garb-esque armor that we
Oh,
get
yeah.
to deck our characters out with too. Ooh, love me
Yeah,
layered cloth.
There's a lot here that I'm looking forward to. 2025 is a big hit, I think.
Yeah.
I think the expectation was that this would probably launch late 24, and it's in 25, and we don't know how late into 25. So
Good.
this is ambitious. This is an ambitious game. It's gonna be. This is like one of the periods if we're gonna have the least Monster Hunter content for a while, because Rise has kind of wrapped up its DLC cycle, and World has been wrapped up for a couple of years. So it's gonna be a Monster Hunter-less year for the most part.
Oh my god.
Ready to come back in full force in 2025, I think. Yeah, I'm just very excited about this. I think this is a great teaser for the next game. We're
I've-
supposed to hear more in March.
I've
Where the
seen
hell is
people-
Pragmata?
No, it's gone
Dude,
forever.
no, I don't even, dude, don't even. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It is not worth my attention anymore, despite how
Yeah, no
interested
Nintendo
I
Switch
am.
on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Switch would explode trying to run that.
I have no clue what they're doing with the Pragmata at this point. I'm sure that game has probably hit some dev troubles. They did release a statement a little while ago that was like, we've pushed it to 2024. We'll talk about it when we're ready. So I hope we see more soon, because we're hitting even the delayed release period. So I want to learn more. That said, I think this is the show. We've gone through basically every announcement. We did a live react to all of it. You can go check out and see all of our in the reactions. Our Monster Hunter one and a few of the others are particularly fun. So go check it out. Any final thoughts about Game Awards?
Do better, Jeff. You talk about all these game creators like they do these big important things, and they do, but then the industry has probably been in the worst place it's ever been.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna need you to
humidity-wise.
please wrap it up.
Sorry, I'd like to thank my mom, my dad. But no,
my
yeah, I
God.
think that's a big thing that could have been talked about if all these people, all these devs clearly in some way have run into some sort of horrible crunch that was either out of their control or straight up abuse by bad CEOs that don't know what they're doing, and
Mass layoffs.
massive layoffs. And what if we just didn't talk about any of it and rushed the devs that
Yeah,
did?
it
have
really
nice
would have
things
been
to
great if
say
he
off the
had a
stage.
statement at the start or something that was like, we really, our hearts are out to everyone that got laid off this year or is looking for a new position.
For sure.
But see, here's the
Um,
thing. I could see that actually being worse, because you'll have this message at the very beginning, and then the rest of the show goes exactly the same, where you're rushing the developers off
Well,
the
yeah,
stage.
that
you gotta
implies
fix
the rest
both,
of the
right?
show would be
You gotta
better.
do both. You got to stop rushing people and then put the announcement. It's like, hey, we
Yeah.
acknowledge
So-
that the world isn't great right now, and so
Here's what the Game Awards are. Okay, I'm gonna lay it out nice and simple. The Game Awards is like watching a trashy dating show, right? It's kind of garbage. It kind of knows it's garbage, but it tries to take itself really seriously. And you have a few characters or a few games that you really care about and that you want to that you're rooting for. But don't take it too seriously, because it's a junky dating show. That's what the Game
Yeah.
Awards are.
yeah, I think that's a fair
Jeff
point.
takes it too seriously.
It's fun popcorn time. That's.
I had a
think
blast
that's
watching it.
If you
Yeah.
want like a good award show that really, I feel like, respects the industry, or at least it appears to respect the industry more, follow
Tries.
the BAFTAs. Yeah, tries. Just follow the BAFTAs. I think if that's what you're looking for, I think the BAFTAs is gonna be a much better
Mhm.
place for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that said, our Game Awards talk is over. It's time for shots. So, who wants to kick it off with something?
I have one.
Did you think I was gonna? Did you wait for me to tell you no? Is that
Yeah.
what the problem?
Yeah, just
no,
just
you can't.
just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we're
you should have
heckling you, Alex.
said no.
We're heckling
You should have
like
said
Anthony
no.
Mackie.
I love you too.
Oh my god.
I'll go.
Here.
Like I said, I've been playing Final Fantasy 16, and I did a side quest that was not a very interesting side quest. It was like a go fetch this thing for me side quest. But then I didn't even notice what the name of the quest was until I finished it, and it made me laugh really hard. It's a mission where you have to like gather some materials and like plug some holes in this guy's boat, right? And you know the stuff that you use if you're like filling out a hole in wall, you use caulk, right? Spelled like CAULK, I think, and you like fill in holes and stuff.
I'm gonna spell it.
And this guy
What was it called, Wyatt?
and this guy's whining the whole time about his boat. And at the very end, I realized the mission was called Cock and Ball. and I thought that was really
Oh
funny.
my god!
All spelled
awesome.
BAWL, and it was like it showed
'Cause
up
he was
like,
whining
right at
about
the
it.
end. I didn't even realize what the quest was called because I wasn't paying
That's
attention.
amazing.
It was awesome.
The quest designers and people who write the names for things like that just get to go wild for like the references that
It
names
goes
have
unchecked.
are my favorite people.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
All right, I'll go next. I have a pair shout out of I went to see 2 movies this week. It was my movie going weekend. Godzilla -1, very good, and The Boy and the Heron. I don't know what my thoughts of The Boy and the Heron are yet because it was really confusing, and I think that's a good thing. But I also
That's
don't
usually
know.
how Ghibli movies are first watched through.
But
in my
more so than
experience.
the others. Like I can follow the plot of every other Ghibli movie relatively easily. Boy and the Heron, I knew what was happening. I didn't know why, and they never really stopped, and then just kind of ended. It was
Aw,
good.
gotta
I
see
enjoyed watching it. My reaction to it is like I don't fully. I don't know what I was supposed to feel at the end, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, it was weird.
How do you think someone would fare if it took them 5 full watch throughs of Spirited Away to understand the basic plot?
Alex, that can't be true. I refuse to believe that.
What age were you?
Yeah.
If you were 6 or below, the context here is very different, right?
I was 17
You were 22
at that time.
That's a separate thing. Maybe you need to go watch it again and make sure you've just got it down. So you can move on to the
Go for
next
number
Ghibli
6.
movie. All right.
Okay,
Next.
I can go. I took a little vacation this weekend. That's fun, but not related to my shout out. Just background. Shout out to the entry grade RX 782 Gundam.
Yeah.
There he
Which
is.
is so
He's
that
chunky.
it was so fun and easy to build, and it requires no tools. So I literally built it in a hotel room, just like, oh, I hear I got 45 minutes of downtime. Let me build a guy.
Yep. My
It's awesome.
my dad built one of those on a picnic table with no tools either, and he doesn't do anything like that, and it
Yep.
came out just as well.
I think I'll probably end up using it as a testing ground for some paints and whatnot, just to
Might as well.
get my footing under me for whatever $10 or whatever it costs.
Nice.
We'll give him the cell shade treatment.
All right,
You
Brett,
should. That
bring
always
us
looks
home.
good. Resident Tales of Not Enjoyer. I'm now like 15 hours into Tales of Symphonia, and it's the best one for a reason, I guess. I don't really know what they did with the other ones that I've tried, but it's really good. It's weird to see a GameCube game tackle like racism and stuff successfully, and it's like super like old and friendly looking on the outside, but the writing and characters are very, very good. So I'm excited to kind of blow through it as fast as I can to finish it because I'm liking it more than I thought I would.
Did you enjoy Grandma turning into a monster? Was that a fun part?
Oh,
for
of
you?
course, of
All right.
course. And then
I
and then
love how
Grandma
no
Monster turns
context
into
will
Orb.
help with that. Yep. All right. Well, that's the end of our show. As always, Tuesdays at 7
We gotta wrap it
p.m.
up. We
Pacific
gotta wrap it
time.
up. We gotta wrap
Yeah,
up
please
the
wrap
show.
it up. Please wrap it up.
We gotta wrap up the show.
Sorry,
Ryan,
get
wrap it up.
off the stage.
Wrap it up.
Off the stage.
Ryan, get the hell out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
But guys, my broken foot.
No, I don't care. I don't care.
That
Get out of
was
here.
5 minutes of discussion about his foot.
Did you
Hey,
have
nobody-
fellow game developers that died during the development of your game? Get out of here.